My aunt fought for an inheritance that was never hers, until the grandfather we all thought was dead walked through the door. That's the sentence I never thought I'd say. But life's funny like that. It saves its strangest punchlines for the moments you're least ready to laugh. And that day? That day was no comedy. It started in a law office so stale and beige it could have been a morgue. Hell, in a way it was. We were burying my grandfather, Mikhail Petrovich. Or at least, the version of him we thought we knew. The lawyer's voice droned like static. My mother sat to my left, lips pressed in a thin, silent line. To my right, my Aunt Larissa clutched a handbag so tightly the strap had gone white under her fingers. And per the revised will, all property, savings, and assets are to be transferred to Ms. Larissa V. Petrov, the lawyer said. A silence dropped like a bomb. My mom blinked, once, then turned toward him. There must be a mistake. Larissa didn't even flinch. She reached into that handbag and pulled out a crisp white envelope. He changed it last year, she said calmly. He sent me the notarized copy. I looked at my mother. Her face was blank, but her hands, they trembled. My voice cracked. What about the apartment? The one he promised you? She shook her head slowly. He never mentioned a change. Never. Larissa smiled. Not smug. Not cruel. Just practiced. Like she'd been waiting for this moment. I was 29. Old enough to know when something stank. And this stank like rot behind a locked door. Larissa hadn't seen my grandfather in almost 15 years. Not a call. Not a visit. Not even a birthday card. Meanwhile, my mom. She was there every Sunday with groceries and medicine. She was there when he broke his hip. She was the one who sat by his hospital bed for 6 days straight. So why, suddenly, was Larissa the sole heir to everything? Because the version of the will we just heard? It wasn't in his handwriting. The signature looked off. But we didn't say that out loud. Not yet. I suggest you leave any disputes for the court, Larissa said, standing up. She adjusted her coat with delicate, deliberate fingers. I have a locksmith meeting me at the apartment at noon. The nerve of it. My mom didn't move. Neither did I. We let her walk out. But something snapped in me that day. Maybe it was the way she spoke about the apartment like it was a handbag she'd picked out. Maybe it was the silence in my mom's throat. Or maybe, just maybe, it was something deeper. Something that had been festering for years. I made a decision then. I was going to prove Larissa lied. Even if it tore the family in half. Even if it meant digging up secrets that should have stayed buried. And that was before the biggest secret of all walked into my life. Wearing a tattered coat, holding a cane, and looking like a ghost. You're not supposed to be here, I whispered. The old man looked up at me. His voice was gravel wrapped in sorrow. I wasn't dead, he said. They just wanted you to think I was. And just like that, everything I thought I knew collapsed like wet paper. The room spun around me. My knees went weak, but I didn't fall. I just stood there, staring at the man in front of me, gray-bearded, hollow-eyed, and alive. Grandpa, I croaked. He gave me a tired nod. But we buried you. The funeral, the ashes. He took a breath that sounded like it scraped the bottom of his lungs. That wasn't me. I staggered back a step. What the hell is going on? Grandpa lowered himself into the nearest chair like it was the first rest he'd had in years. I need you to listen, and I need you not to interrupt. I nodded, heart hammering. He looked at me, those same steel blue eyes I'd grown up with, now dull and watery. Your aunt forged the will. That much you already suspect. But the truth runs deeper than that. She forged the death certificate too. My mouth went dry. He continued, voice low, urgent. A few years ago, I had a stroke. Mild, but enough to put me in the hospital. I was recovering slowly, out of it most days. That's when Larissa showed up. First time in years. Suddenly, she's by my side every day, smiling, acting like a saint. He scoffed bitterly. She told the nurses she was my medical proxy. Said you and your mom were too emotional, too distant. She had papers, forged, I assume, and they believed her. Next thing I know, she transfers me to a private care facility outside the city. No visitors allowed. No phone. No TV. Just me and 4 white walls. I could barely breathe. But the funeral. The cremation. How? Someone else, he rasped. An unclaimed John Doe from the same hospital. She bribed someone, made the switch. Told everyone I'd passed in my sleep. The death notice went out a day before she even told your mother. I felt like I was going to vomit. Why? Why would she do that? His jaw clenched. Because she needed me gone to take everything. And I was too weak to stop her. I dropped into a chair opposite him. The floor felt like it might give out beneath me. Why come now? I asked. Why not call the police? A lawyer? He looked down at his hands. They shook as he folded them together. I tried, but I was just a sick old man in a care home no one believed existed. They kept me medicated, confused. Only recently did I find someone, a janitor, kind soul, who helped me escape. Got me a ride into town. I stared at him, my mind a storm of disbelief and rage. My grandfather had been buried alive in paperwork and silence, while Larissa played heiress with stolen ink. He looked up at me. Will you help me set this right? My fist curled in my lap. We're going to burn her entire lie to the ground, I said. And I meant every word. We didn't sleep that night. We didn't eat. We sat in my tiny apartment, me and the man who was supposed to be dead, mapping out our revenge like we were planning a heist. We can't just walk into court and say, surprise, I'm alive, I told him. Grandpa rubbed his temples. I know. Larissa covered her tracks. She was always smart, just not kind. That was putting it mildly. He laid out what little he remembered, a name of the facility, a partial address, the face of the janitor who helped him out. It wasn't much, but it was a start. I got to work the next morning. Started calling every long-term care facility within 50 miles, using his description. Most had no record of him, some hung up. But then I called a place called Whispering Pines. Asked about a Mikhail Petrovich. The woman paused. That name sounds familiar, but I can't release information over the phone. Please, I said. He was held there against his will. This is about forgery, a fake death. Silence. Then she whispered, come in. Don't say more on the line. I hung up and turned to Grandpa. We've got a lead. The place looked like a retirement home on the outside. Gated, manicured lawn, fake flowers on the windowsills. Inside, cold, too clean, like a place that didn't want to admit its residents ever left. A nurse met us in the lobby. You're Mikhail Petrovich's family? Grandpa nodded. Her eyes welled up. We wondered what happened to you. You just vanished. They led us to a back office. Confidential files, visitation logs, security records, and most damning, a forged medical directive with Larissa's signature. She'd claimed power of attorney. Said my mother was estranged. That I lived out of the country. She told them no visitors. Just regular bank transfers. We never questioned it, the nurse said quietly. We see so many families like that. I wanted to scream. Instead, I asked, can I get a copy of all this? I'll do what I can, she said. Back in the car, Grandpa sat in silence. We have proof now, I told him. He didn't answer, just stared ahead. What is it? He exhaled slowly. That place, it wasn't just lonely. It was like waiting to disappear. I didn't know what to say, so I drove. We spent the next 3 days gathering everything. The facility records, the fake will, the signatures. I compared every document to old letters Grandpa had written me as a kid. The difference was obvious. We had a case, but what we didn't have was time. Because Larissa had already started moving in. And she wasn't just redecorating. She was selling things. Family heirlooms. My grandmother's jewelry. Even the old radio that used to play Vysotsky every Sunday morning. She's liquidating, I said, holding up an auction listing on my phone. If we don't stop her, it'll all be gone. Grandpa leaned forward. Then we make it public. We go loud. I blinked. You want to go to the press? No, he said. Worse. He smiled. We go to Larissa's favorite charity gala. I laughed, but he didn't. He was serious. And that was the moment I knew. We weren't just taking back what was ours. We were about to make her choke on the lie she built. We didn't have tickets. We didn't need them. Larissa's name was all over the gala. A medical charity she'd sponsored for years. She posed as the generous daughter of a respected war veteran. Ironic, considering she left him to rot in a glorified prison. The event was black tie, naturally. Grandpa wore the old navy blue suit my mom had hidden in her closet for sentimental reasons. It hung a bit loose on him now, but the way he stood in it? Like steel under wrinkled skin. I wore my best. Not because I wanted to impress anyone, but because I wanted to look her in the eye with dignity when the truth hit her like a brick. We arrived early. Not inside. Just across the street. In a cafe with big front windows. Grandpa sipped black coffee with shaking hands. I watched the doors. And then she appeared. Draped in silver, with hair pinned up like royalty. Her laugh echoed down the street, as two men in tuxedos opened the door for her. She was glowing, comfortable, untouchable. Until now. I looked at Grandpa. You ready? He nodded. We crossed the street like soldiers heading into battle. Security gave us one glance, then stopped us. Invitation? Grandpa pulled a wrinkled ID from his jacket. Mikhail Petrovich. I'm the man this event is supposed to be honoring. The guard squinted. His eyes darted to me, back to Grandpa, then toward the framed poster on the entrance wall. It had Larissa's smiling face and a dedication, in loving memory of her father, Mikhail Petrovich. The guard froze. Another one walked over. There's been some mistake. There's been a crime, I said calmly. I saw it happen like a slow-motion movie. One of the guards whispered into a headset. Inside, a ripple moved through the room. A hostess jogged over to a woman near the open bar. Larissa. She turned. And when she saw him, when she saw Grandpa, her face drained of color so fast she looked carved from marble. She stumbled back a step. He didn't speak, just walked past the guards, straight into the lobby. People were starting to notice. Eyes turned. Phones came out. Larissa rushed forward. What is this? What are you doing here? Grandpa's voice was quiet, but strong, reclaiming my life. Her mouth opened and closed. This is a mistake. This man is sick. He's confused. He doesn't know what he's saying. I held up the hospital records. This says otherwise. She grabbed my arm. You don't know what you're doing. Don't I? I snapped. You faked his death. You locked him away. You stole everything. Whispers bloomed around us like wildfire. Guests started circling, drawn like moths to the blaze. A journalist I recognized from local TV edged closer. She raised her phone. Larissa's eyes darted toward the exit. But Grandpa stepped in her path. You buried me, he said, voice trembling. You buried me while I was still breathing. A hush fell, and then the gala's host stepped forward, face pale. We need to pause the event, he muttered. Please, everyone, step outside. I turned to Larissa. Enjoy your evening, I said. Then we walked out. We didn't run. We didn't shout. But by the time we reached the sidewalk again, social media was already on fire. And Larissa's empire? It had just begun to burn. We didn't speak on the ride home. Not because there was nothing to say, but because every word would have broken the fragile silence we needed to process what had just happened. By the time we reached my apartment, my phone had 37 notifications. Texts, missed calls, voicemails. One from Mom, two from a blocked number I knew was Larissa, and one from a reporter. Do you want to talk to them? I asked Grandpa, setting the phone on the table. He looked at it like it might explode. Not yet. Fair enough. We needed time. But Larissa didn't give us that luxury. By morning, her lawyer had filed an injunction against Grandpa's claim to the estate. Her statement to the press called the entire thing a cruel impersonation and claimed he was a mentally unstable imposter. She said she had DNA proof. Grandpa just laughed when I read it out loud. Then she better hope she didn't burn my toothbrush. We called a lawyer of our own. My childhood friend, Anya, had just made partner at a firm downtown. She met Grandpa, saw the documents, heard the story. She didn't hesitate. We'll file a fraud petition, she said. Force a paternity test. Bring the care facility staff to testify. If we play this right, we won't just reclaim the estate, we'll have her charged. But lawsuits move slow. Larissa moved faster. She held a press conference 3 days later, flanked by PR reps and security. I watched the live stream on my laptop. Grandpa refused. Just sat by the window, staring out like the world outside was still somewhere he hadn't returned to. I grieve the memory of my father, Larissa said, all misty-eyed. I pray for peace, even as my family falls victim to this impersonation. She was good. I'll give her that. But the next day, the care home nurse went public. An interview, recorded in shadow, voice disguised, but the truth clear. That man isn't an imposter. That man lived under our care. He was kept hidden, denied visitors. And we were told his family abandoned him. It cracked the facade. Local outlets picked it up, then national ones. People started asking questions. And Larissa? She started losing grip. She showed up at my door that Friday. No warning. No apology. Just rage. I opened the door. She pushed past me. You have no idea what you've done, she hissed. Her eyes were wild. Not theatrical. Just desperate. Grandpa appeared in the hallway. The second she saw him, her face twisted. You should have stayed gone, she spat. You were nothing but a bitter, controlling old man. And you were my daughter, he said. She laughed. Harsh. Bitter. You never treated me like one. I stepped between them. Stop. This isn't going to fix anything. Oh, it won't, she snapped. But I promise you this. You will regret dragging this into the light. Then she turned to Grandpa. And you? You're already dead to me. Again. She stormed out. For a long moment, we just stood there. Then Grandpa said something I didn't expect. She was right about one thing. I didn't treat her like a daughter. Not after what she did to your mother. I turned. What do you mean? He didn't answer. Just walked to the couch, sat down slowly. There's more to this, he said. More than I ever told anyone. And suddenly, I realized this wasn't just about inheritance. It never had been. It was about secrets. And the one he was about to reveal, it would tear everything wide open. He didn't speak for a long time. Just stared at the wall like it held the weight of everything he never said out loud. The air in the room got heavy, like it was bracing for what was coming next. Finally, Grandpa spoke. Your mother doesn't know? She's never known. I leaned forward. Known what? He rubbed his hands together, knuckles pale with pressure. That Larissa was never supposed to be raised by us. I blinked. What? He nodded slowly. She was the daughter of your grandmother's sister. My sister-in-law died in childbirth. Her husband vanished before that. There was no one else. So we took her in. So, Mom and Larissa aren't really sisters? Not by blood. But your mother didn't know. We never told her. We raised Larissa as our own, called her a second daughter, tried to make it all seamless. We thought we were doing the right thing. My mind reeled. Why keep it a secret? He looked away. Because Larissa never felt like part of us. She always sensed something was different. And as she got older, she started resenting your mom. Their bond wasn't the same. We tried everything. But the jealousy, the suspicion, it just grew. I sat back. So you think this, all of this, comes from that? I know it does, he said, voice hollow. I saw it in her eyes the day she found the adoption certificate in the attic. She was 17. She confronted me. I begged her not to say anything. Promised we'd talk about it after the holidays. He paused. But she didn't wait. She took the paper straight to your mother. Told her it was proof she was the real daughter. That your mother had been adopted and lied to. My stomach twisted. What? She flipped the story. Spun it so she could be the center of everything. Your mom believed her. For months. Wouldn't talk to us. Left home. That was the first time she nearly cut us off. I ran a hand through my hair, overwhelmed. We fixed it, he said. Eventually. We showed your mom the real documents. Explained everything. But the damage, it never fully healed. I thought about Mom. How guarded she'd become. How she always tried too hard around Larissa, trying to keep peace. Always the one to apologize. It wasn't just family tension. It was manipulation from the start. She used that lie to wedge herself deeper into our lives, Grandpa said. And when that didn't work, she left. Disappeared. Until I got sick. Then she saw her opening. I felt sick. She's been playing the long game. Grandpa's eyes met mine. And she's not done. That night, I sat alone with my laptop, staring at all the files we'd gathered. And for the first time, I felt something deeper than anger. Resolve. Because this wasn't just about justice anymore. It was about memory. About legacy. About making sure my mother knew the truth. I opened a blank document. Started writing everything. From the hospital transfer to the forged will to the gala. Then I attached the audio file, Larissa's outburst at our door. The one I'd secretly recorded on my phone. I clicked send. To Mom. And waited. When her reply came the next morning, it was only 3 words. I'm on my way. And just like that, the final piece of the reckoning was falling into place. Mom showed up at dawn. No makeup, no suitcase. Just her keys in one hand and a folder in the other. She walked past me without a word, straight to Grandpa. And when she saw him, truly saw him, something in her broke. Not loudly. Not with tears. Just a slow, trembling collapse into the armchair across from him. I thought you were gone, she whispered. He nodded. I know. They told me you. The ashes. I kept them in the house, Papa. I mourned you. He winced like the words stabbed him. I mourned you too. Every day they kept me away. Silence stretched, but it wasn't empty. It was full of grief, rage, lost time. Mom finally looked at me. That recording. That wasn't the first time, was it? I shook my head. No. She's been twisting things for years. Mom reached into the folder. Pulled out an old photograph, black and white. torn at the corner. Two girls in matching dresses. One smiling, one staring hard into the lens. I should have seen it, she said. I always thought Larissa just wanted love in a different way. But now, she wanted control, I said. And when she couldn't get it through affection, she tried through power. Mom nodded slowly. Then let's take it back. The next few days moved like a storm. Our lawyer filed an emergency injunction to freeze the estate, presented the new testimony, the facility records, and a notarized affidavit from Grandpa identifying Larissa's signature forgeries. The judge approved it. All of Larissa's transactions were halted. The bank locked her accounts linked to the estate. The auction listings were removed. The gala committee issued a retraction. Larissa, of course, retaliated. Her lawyer filed a counterclaim that Grandpa was coerced, that I had brainwashed a grieving old man, that Mom was emotionally unstable and using her son to reverse a lawful inheritance. But none of it stuck, because our evidence wasn't just strong, it was overwhelming. And then came the deposition. We met in a sterile conference room. Grandpa and Mom on one side, Larissa and her lawyer on the other. When she walked in, she didn't look angry anymore. She looked scared. Her lawyer spoke first, laying out their defense. Carefully worded, legally precise, but hollow. Then it was Grandpa's turn. He stood. No notes, just his voice. I watched you grow up, Larissa, he said. I held you when you were sick. I helped you with your math homework. I sang you to sleep. You were my daughter, not by blood, but by choice. And you broke that bond, not with ambition, not with mistakes, but with lies, with cruelty. Larissa looked down. For once, no smug retort, no eye roll. You faked my death, he continued. You locked me away. You convinced the world I didn't exist. And for what? A penthouse? Some jewelry? Respect you never earned? The room was dead silent. Mom stared at her. No hatred, just hurt. We could have forgiven you, she said. But you made that impossible. Larissa whispered. You still don't understand. No, I said. We finally do. We walked out together. And in that moment, for the first time in years, we felt like a family again. But we weren't done. Not until the court made it final. Not until Larissa faced real consequences. And not until we looked her lies in the eye and said, you don't get to rewrite our story anymore. The court date came quicker than we expected. The gallery was packed. Not just with family. There were reporters, former friends of Larissa's, and a few strangers who just wanted to witness the crash. Larissa arrived in black. Not mourning black, calculated black. Her expression was stoic, but I could see the edges cracking. The pride she wore like armor had thinned to porcelain. Grandpa took the stand first. He told the story, the stroke, the facility, the lies. Every word he spoke hit like a hammer. Then came the nurse, the janitor, the paper trail. The prosecution didn't need theatrics. They had facts, forged signatures, fake IDs, a medical power of attorney signed by someone who never legally held it. When it was our turn to speak, I read from the document I'd written weeks ago. My name is Alexei. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an investigator. I'm a grandson. And I'm here because the man who raised me was buried alive by paperwork. Because the woman who did it knew she'd get away with it, if no one watched, if no one cared. But we did, and we do. Larissa's defense was weak. Her lawyer tried to pivot, blaming mental decline, emotional distress, painting her as a confused caretaker who made a tragic error. But no one bought it. The judge was old school, stern, sharp. When he delivered the verdict, his voice didn't flinch. The court finds that Mikhail Petrovich is the rightful holder of all estate and inheritance. The will presented by Larissa Petrov is hereby deemed fraudulent. Furthermore, the court recommends criminal investigation into identity fraud, elder abuse, and unlawful confinement. It was over. Larissa didn't cry. She didn't shout. She just stood, nodded once, and walked out. Alone. We didn't celebrate. There was no champagne, no victory speech, just quiet relief. In the weeks that followed, we moved Grandpa back into his apartment. It still smelled like dust and lavender soap. Mom cleaned the kitchen. I fixed the old radio. We didn't talk much about Larissa, but every now and then, I'd catch Grandpa looking out the window. Not with sadness, not even with anger, just a quiet kind of mourning for the girl they raised, the girl who chose to become something else. One night, as we sat listening to a record, he said, "Do you think people are born selfish? Or do they become that way when they think love has run out? I didn't know how to answer. Maybe both. Maybe neither. But I knew this. Love hadn't run out. Not for us. It had just been buried. And now, finally, we were digging it back up. A month passed. Larissa was indicted on 3 counts: fraud, elder abuse, and unlawful imprisonment. Her face disappeared from society pages. Her name was scrubbed from every event flyer. Even her friends stopped defending her. Privately, they sent messages to Mom. We didn't know. We're sorry. But that wasn't the part that hit hardest. It was when the court froze her personal assets. And suddenly, she was just another person without a lifeline. Her lawyer dropped her. The media moved on. The spotlight she craved turned into a heat lamp, and she was shrinking under it. Mom and I visited the cemetery one morning. Grandma's grave. A small patch of grass beneath a willow. Grandpa stayed in the car. Mom knelt down and placed fresh flowers. Not roses. Peonies, Grandma's favorite. I wish she could see us now, she said. She can? I told her. She looked at me sideways. Do you really believe that? I nodded. Yeah, I do. We didn't need a seance. The dead don't speak, but they echo, in the choices we make, in the way we fix what they left behind. The estate was legally restored to Grandpa. He didn't change much. Kept the furniture. Kept the dust. But he gave Mom the apartment she'd grown up in. And he gave me something I never expected. His journals. Stacks of them. From the day I was born until the year Larissa vanished. Read them slowly, he said. They aren't perfect, but they're honest. One night, I opened the first one. Page 1. Today, my daughter gave birth to a boy. I held him. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel afraid. I closed it. That one line did something to me. Because this story, our story, wasn't just about fraud or inheritance or even justice. It was about memory. And what we do when memory gets stolen, manipulated, rewritten. We fight for it. We write it down again. And we make sure no one gets to steal it a second time. Grandpa's not the same man he was before Larissa's betrayal. He walks slower, talks less, but there's a light behind his eyes again. And Mom, she finally stopped apologizing. To me, to herself, to the past. As for me, I still check the mail every day expecting a letter from Larissa. Not one of forgiveness, but one that finally says, I remember what I did. It hasn't come. Maybe it never will. But that's okay, because we remember. And that's enough to keep the truth alive. It's been a year. The house feels different now. Lived in. Real. No more lawyer meetings. No more court filings. Just the rhythm of mornings and the quiet sound of healing. Grandpa spends most of his days in the garden. Even in the winter, he trims the dead branches like it means something. I think it does. Something about tending to what's left, not just what grows. Mom comes by twice a week. She brings pastries, sometimes flowers. They talk. Sometimes in long, deep conversations. Sometimes in silence. But they're together, and that matters. As for me, I moved into the apartment above the bookstore downtown. I left my old job, started working part-time at the shop. And when I'm not shelving novels, I write. Not fiction. Stories like this one. True ones. Ugly, beautiful, impossible ones. Stories people don't believe until they happen to them. One afternoon, a woman came into the store. Mid-40s. Nervous. Said she recognized my name from the articles. Your story helped me, she said. My aunt did something similar to my grandfather. I thought no one would believe me. But I read what you wrote, and I stopped being afraid. That hit hard. Because that's the thing about stories. They don't just entertain. They survive. They hold space when justice feels too far away. And sometimes, they light the path back to it. I don't know where Larissa is now. Rumor has it she moved out of state. Changed her name. Tried to rebuild. Maybe she'll come back one day. Maybe she won't. But if she does, she'll find us different. Not just stronger. More honest. Unshakable in what we now know to be true. That love, when it's real, isn't something you win or lose. It isn't currency. It isn't inheritance. It's earned. Daily. With truth. With action. And when it's stolen, it doesn't vanish. It fights back. Through sons. Through daughters. Through stories. Through legacy. This one, it ends here. But what we rebuilt, that will outlive us all.